Talking about all the water lines and having to fix faucets and everything else, I was answering a comment and I remembered something that happened to me a good many years ago. I was working for a company called Metal Powder Components, and what they did was take powdered metal, compress it into billets or specific shapes, gears, pump housings, all kinds of things, big compaction presses. They'd compress the powder together with zinc stearate as a binder, and then they would run it through a furnace at 2200 degrees and sinter the parts, make one solid piece. Uh, Only problem was it was a factory, and somebody was driving a fork truck down through the aisle next to the big presses, and they ran into a 4-inch water line. Well, a 4-inch water line dumps out a lot of water in a real big hurry. So it was dumping water into the bottom of the main press pit and filling it up quite rapidly. Somebody went up to try and shut it off, but there was no way to turn off the valve. The valve was an old gate style valve. You couldn't close it. It was full of dirt and crap in the track where the gate closed. So I had one of the maintenance guys up there trying to shut off the water that was leaking into the press pit. And then I was standing at the main water shut off and shutting off the water so that they could work on it. Well, I had two problems. One, the water was coming out at a tremendous rate and filling the pits up, and it was going to be a huge mess. Two, we were running the vacuum furnace. The vacuum furnace is a big stainless steel bottle that you racked it full of compactions, the little things that we sintered. You racked it full of compactions and then closed off the lid, tightened it down, and then you pulled a vacuum on the inside of the chamber, and you just kept the metal in there heated to 2200 degrees as the different particles gradually fused together. They called it necking. Well, anyways, the big vacuum bottle was water cooled. It had a water jacket around it. It's a real heavy thing. It was about 6 foot in diameter and 10 feet long and held 2 pallets worth of compactions in it. So it was quite a big thing. Well, that meant that it was a pressure vessel with steam being built up in it. When I had to shut the water off so that they could close off that valve, that meant that the water in the vacuum furnace heated up. And it started blowing hoses off the back of the vacuum furnace. Well, I didn't want that to happen because if the water couldn't run through the cooling jacket, it would melt down the whole furnace. We had shut the furnace off, but it still had this huge mass of red hot steel inside of it. So I was opening the valve and letting some water into the vacuum furnace so that it would remain somewhat under control. At the same time, the guys on the other side of the building were trying to shut off that pipe. I was very nervous because I was standing in the room with the large vacuum furnace, and if it blew, I had no idea what it was going to do. It could take out probably half the building because it was a huge thing with a lot of energy in it. So in any case, I stood there and I opened and shut that valve for about an hour while we finally got the water turned off and the main line shut off so that we could turn the water back on and leave it on to the vacuum furnace. But then we had to replace the hoses on the back side of the vacuum furnace that were leaking like the dickens. They'd all blown off. It was a thoroughly bad day. Yeah, water's not been a real popular thing for me to have to work on the systems that supply it and control it. But it's one of those things that you do when you take on the business of fixing things that people screw up.